That Night by Nidhi Upadhyay. 20 years later, October 31st, 2017, Natasha Gupta Lim, Raffles Place, Singapore. Natasha's weekly sales report needed another hour, but the notification on her smartwatch caught her attention. Trick or treat party. She dismissed the alarm, turned her eyes away from the incomplete sales report and looked outside the window. A patch of crimson cloud over Marina Bay sands looked like the mast of a sailing vessel. The shades of pink in the sky hinted at sunset. It was a perfect evening to be home with her kids, to witness the sun take a dip into the sea. But Natasha's new role as sales head had robbed her life and her twins' lives of these tiny pleasures. Before her guilt could again drag her down the rabbit hole, the ring of her phone pulled her back.
Mummy, are you coming for the Halloween party?
Ryan asked. Natasha looked around. Everyone in office was still glued to their seat. But she had promised her twins to be home for trick or treat. Today is my day to be a good mother.
I was about to call a cab, Munchkin,
she said and half-heartedly dumped the laptop in her bag. Kids or work, whichever side she swayed, the abundant side always weighed her down. And a kid's Halloween party in her condominium wasn't exactly a valid excuse to leave work early. She booked an Uber and got into the lift. It made a weird clacking sound as it descended from the 11th floor. A moment later, the lights in the lift flickered and died. She switched on her phone's flashlight. The dust motes dancing in the slice of light stirred something uncomfortable within her. Natasha pointed the flashlight and located the emergency call button on the lift's control panel. The lifeless buttons cemented her anxiety. She unlocked her phone to call for help, but the last bar of the signal had disappeared. Calm down. It is just a lift breakdown. Help will come soon. A few deep breaths, and she felt better. Natasha pressed the emergency call button again, and this time made an attempt to talk into the dead microphone.
Hello? Can you hear me? The lift is not moving. Is someone there?
Her loud, irregular breathing punctuated the eerie silence. She angled her phone closer to the lift's door, hoping to get a signal. Her reflection on the lift's stainless steel door startled her. She was about to scream for help when the power was restored. She hissed out a steady stream of breath when the lift touched the ground. Uncle, the lift wasn't working a minute ago. The call button wasn't working either, she said to the old man seated at the security desk. Her tone hovered between complaint and fear. Cannot be. No one complained, Ma, the old security guard said, and pointed to the people alighting from the other lift. Natasha turned away and walked to the taxiway. Her taxi was here. She overheard the guard muttering under his breath to his colleague. It felt like the sting of a wasp. Kiasi was the word her mother-in-law often used to describe Natasha's borderline paranoia regarding her kids. But there was no way for the guard in her office building to know that she was married into a Chinese family and had picked up most of the local slang. She ignored the guard's comment, the way she had ignored her mother-in-law's remarks on her hyperactive motherly instincts. I have already paid the price for not being cautious. Twice. She took a deep breath, walked to the taxi bay, checked the car number and perched on the car seat. The phone in her bag buzzed for her attention much before she could get over the guard's command.
Hey,
You left for home already? I thought you brought forward the 8 p.m. team call to 6.
It was Andrew, her boss.
But I didn't.
Andrew didn't give Natasha a chance to complete her sentence.
We received the meeting change request from you. Anyway, let's not waste any more time. We have everybody on the call. Please log into the call, alright?
Andrew's voice was cold and curt. Natasha was left with no choice but to transform the car's back seat into her office desk. Her laptop, the chief of sales report, and her moleskin notebook were all out before she could log into the call. The crawling traffic on the Marina Coastal Expressway meant that the call would get over before the car ride. But tonight, nothing in Natasha's life was going as per plan. She was still juggling with the team sales numbers when the driver swiped his phone's touchscreen and completed the trip. Natasha packed her makeshift office into her bag and stepped out of the car. She had to walk away from the playground to finish this call without getting bothered by her boys. But there was no need to hide from them. The Uber had brought her to a wrong destination. Natasha muted the call and tapped on the car's boot before it could drive off. "This is not 26 Siglap Road," she said when the driver rolled down the window. "Your destination is 426 Siglap Road. See?" The driver said and pointed to Natasha's call history on his phone. "But how is it possible? I selected the destination as home from Uber app," she said. She was about to convince the driver to drop her to the right building when her boss threw a question at her.
Natasha? Any news on the Thailand placement?
Andrew's vexed tone had again eclipsed every other worry from her world. She unmuted the call and watched the car speed away. Natasha soon finished the call, changed the home address on the Uber app, and booked a new cab. She was about to pull out the earphones to dump them in her bag when a message notification appeared on the phone screen.
Are you here?
She assumed it to be the driver's message and texted back. "Where are you? Yes, I am in front of this old yellow gate." She waited for a minute for the driver to respond, and when no response came, she launched the Uber app. There wasn't a driver nearby. The system was still finding a ride for her. Natasha had responded to an anonymous message. She tapped on the message icon to apologize for her hasty response when another message from the same sender flashed on her phone screen.
Stay there. You love calling upon the dead, don't you? All you need is a Ouija board, and that much I can do for you.
Before Natasha could reread the message, her phone's screen turned black. An app had launched itself, the umber-colored screen with the word Spirit written on it looked way unfamiliar. She stared at the 3 tabs displayed on the screen. Scary stories, start seance, and more. She quit the app. Did Rick download this crap and where the hell am I? Natasha turned around, drinking in the unfamiliar surroundings. The road was lined up with affluent houses, except for this battered, yellow, Mughal Gothic structure. It stood out like cotton patchwork on a silken tapestry. She carefully studied the yellow and green pillars supporting the palisade wooden gate. A lingering air of neglect and abandonment hung around the building. The partially open gate beckoned Natasha to enter, but the surrounding's green barrier screen concealed what lay beyond. She decided to stay away, but studied the arch more intensely. The Arabic writing engraved on the yellow and green arch revealed nothing to her about the building. Her gaze drifted to the pillars supporting the arch. The green text on the bright yellow pillar must have been prominently visible once, but the peeled-out paint and the dry weeds erupting from the mortar had partially effaced its design. She googled the phrase, Kabar Qasim in Roman letters on the pillars. Kabar Qasim was a cemetery, a Muslim burial ground. It was considered one of the most haunted places in Singapore and was clearly an object of interest for ghost hunters in town. She scrolled further down and spotted a video. Before Natasha could exit the search app, her phone screen turned sepia green. A loud, eerie tune playing in her earphones startled her. She pulled out the earphones from her ears and hit the pause button. The ghost hunt video had stopped, but the music from the video was still playing in her head, giving her chills. Natasha wasn't scared of ghosts, but her landing here was more than a coincidence, and the context of the messages from that stranger had sent a rush of weakness in her legs. She dialed the number that had texted her. The country code indicated that it was a local number. The call went unanswered. Before she could dial again, Uber's notification flashed on her screen. "Yay! We found you a driver!" Natasha had just tapped on the map to track the car when a loud "boo" startled her. A throng of kids dressed in Halloween costumes were out for trick or treat. She laughed at herself. Of course, this was a prank. A Halloween prank. But why would someone mention the Ouija board? And what if this wasn't a prank? The thought caused a subtle distress to churn in her stomach. She walked away from the graveyard and waited for the taxi. In the cab, she took a deep breath to calm herself down. But what the extra oxygen couldn't do, her twin smiling faces did. The boys were eagerly waiting for her at the drop-off point of her condominium. Ian and Ryan's collective embrace grounded Natasha, erasing the stress of the lift malfunction and the weird trip to the cemetery. She was home, exactly where she wanted to be. The twins' identical Transformers costumes were looking sharp. In no time at all, they dragged her to the playground, which was decorated as a spooky castle. The door-to-door adventure afterwards gave Natasha no time to think about her trip to the graveyard. Rick was still at work. Without his help, the dinner, bath, bed routine was more exhausting than usual, thanks to the sugar high. Once the kids were asleep, Natasha replayed the events of the day in her head. The lift breakdown, the change of home address, the app and the messages about playing Ouija. Something about her evening fell off kilter. She unlocked her phone to read the messages. There weren't any. She swiped the phone screen, looking for the Ouija app. The app had disappeared too. The incidents had no whiff of the past, yet her mind drifted back in time. She typed her friends' names one by one in the search tab. They were all on social media, just a click away. A click on the Send Friend Request tab could cover that distance. Her hand momentarily hovered over the tab, and then she put the phone away. Their silent presence was enough for Natasha.